Okay, so hello, my name is Catalina Herrera, and I will cover today some of the Spotfire enhancements that are being released on the last 5 versions. So let's start with Spotfire 7.6 all the way to Spotfire 7.10. I will focus on the Analyst. If you want additional information from the connectors or from the architecture perspective, I invite you to visit What's New in Spotfire from the TIBCO community website. That is going to give you detailed information on the connectors and the architecture and anything that is beyond the analytics scope that I will be covering today. So to start with, I'm gonna do a recap, very quick recap for 7.6, where we had a couple of new visualizations added to the menu. That is the waterfalls and the KPI charts, and they have the same properties menu as any other visualization in Spotfire. That makes it very easy to configure, where you can have all the different colors and the categories and everything as you are already familiar with any other visualization property menu. We also have a KPI chart that you can add as a navigation control as well. So within all the formatting, appearance, and values that you can control within a KPI chart, now it's also available the action control, where you can actually change these and make that KPI to navigate to a different page within your Spotfire report, or to navigate to a specific bookmark and so on. So that is part of the new menu that you have on the KPI properties in this case. In addition to that, from the mapping capability, Spotfire 7.6, it's able to bring TMS layers into the map. So what this means is that within all the layer capabilities that we already have in Spotfire, so we have a marker layer, TMS layer, WMS layer, and now within the map layer, you have this TMS layer option. And as soon as you click on the settings there, you will have the possibility to bring a URL from a public server or a private server that is going to provide that image into the map. So in this case, I have a satellite view that is coming from this server. And if you want to explore the different images that you can add as a TMS layer, I invite you to go to the GeoAnalytics resources page on the TIBCO community. That is going to give you a list of URLs where you can actually copy and paste. So you will have a lot of options that are free, and you will have some of these options that you require a key or a token. Those are paid service. So depending on what you want to do, but you can explore this website and check all the options that you have to add information in this map as a layer. So very cool in this case, the satellite image. Within the KPI charts, we also have different options in terms of the display size that you select. Think about a big screen in a cafeteria where you want the KPI to be a big box showing the sparkling line that is telling you context about your data. It's not only the number, but it's also telling you, okay, it is better or it's worse comparing with what it was before. So this is a size that you can control now from the properties appearance option. This is a pixels amount, so this is a tile width in pixels, and you can actually change it and control it. So if you want something big, it can be 400 in pixels width, but if you want to display this in a smaller mobile device, for example your phone or a tablet, you can control that to be a smaller tile size. So this is good to keep in mind, especially if you are designing a dashboard to be displayed in your phone or in your iPad or in your tablet. Now, from the mapping perspective, there are a lot of new changes starting in 7.7 all the way to 7.10. So in Spotfire 7.7, we were able to do zoom in and zoom out, and Spotfire will recognize dynamically the layer that you need to work with to select a marker or a shape. So in other words, I have multiple layers on this map. One of the layers is a shape file, which is a feature layer, and I'm showing that layer right now. And then another layer is a marker layer that has the actual latitude and longitude location based on a zip code for information. So if I do click in any of the shapes, that is what is controlling my details on demand, and that is what is populating this pie chart that is being displayed on the right. So every time that I click a different shape, I have a different pie. What if I go farther in the zooming in capabilities of Spotfire and I start seeing all of these extra dots? What this means is that we do have a marker layer that is under the shape layer. So if I want that layer to actually handle the interactivity, what I will have to do is only zoom in, and now I can actually select those dots to be the ones that are controlling how this pie gets populated. So what just happened is that automatically Spotfire is recognizing the layer that you are interacting with. So it can be the shape layer that was on top, or it can be the marker layer that shows up once you zoom in to the proper level for Spotfire to automatically identify it and give you the option to use the markers to select and to create any visualization or details visualization that you need out of there. But if I zoom out, now at this level, the marker layer is not making as much sense. Now I actually need to interact with the shapes from the future layer. So that is happening automatically, and that's an improvement that we have starting in Spotfire 7.7. Now, in addition to that, if you want to know the actual coordinates for a marker, you can now select that marker, right click of the mouse, and this option is also new, starting in Spotfire 7.7, where you can copy the map coordinates for that specific point or that specific location. Okay, now in Spotfire 7.10, we also have a couple of additions in terms of mapping capabilities. The number one is the quick auto zoom on maps. So in this case, I'm gonna select all this is boat information, like on the ocean, boats going from point A to point B. And I have two things to show you here. The number one is the fact that if I select the three boats at the same time, I'm gonna be seeing the data coming from the three boats at the same time. So Spotfire automatically is gonna zoom in to a point where the data is making sense coming from the three boats. But if I select only one boat, Spotfire is gonna zoom in automatically to show me, to display the data that makes sense for that specific boat. And that's what's going on here. Now, in addition to that, notice how we now have direction on the markers. So these arrows are actually providing some direction, and that is configurable from the layers properties, where you can now set a rotation column. So in this specific case, I had a column in the table that made sense in terms of the rotation. And if you need any additional information regarding this, don't forget to visit the What's New in TIBCO Spotfire, where you will have more details about what is going on and how this is happening, and what do you need the data to look like for this kind of features to show correctly. Okay, now new and improved export to PDF option. That's a very good one. We have now this menu in the export to PDF that is going to allow you to do a very good PDF document that is going to keep the theme, is going to keep the background colors, is going to keep all the fonts and all that work that you put into a very nice looking Spotfire file. And at the same time, it's going to allow you to specify what visualization do you want to export, and it's going to allow you to specify the margins and the quality of the image and many other options that you can actually control here in terms of the PDF creation. So this is also new, and it's been a very, very important addition for our Spotfire 710 after a lot of demand for this feature. So in addition to this, the minimum page size is also very important to highlight. This is starting in Spotfire 7.7, and what's going on here is that if you are working in your office and you have a big screen with all of these visualizations, you are using all the space that you can use because you are sitting comfortable in a big screen and you have enough space for you to display all these visualizations at the same time. But what happens if you want to display the same amount of visualizations in a smaller device? Think about it as an iPad, or think about it as a phone where you have a way smaller screen. So before Spotfire 7.7, you will have this kind of situations where the visualization itself is going to lose proportion and it's going to be very hard to visualize any of the data that you are displaying here. So starting in Spotfire 7.7, we can now control the minimum size of the page, and we can actually increase the real estate within the tab where you are working and locating all of these visualizations. So in this case, I have the same amount of visualizations, but I'm actually going farther down to display everything I need to display. What this is going to allow me to do is that I can actually design the page to look very good in a phone or in an iPad. So if this is my phone, I can still drop down and scroll down to see my KPIs. And if I see something that I want to ask more questions about, I can click on it and I can see how all my visualizations are getting populated based on that click. And I can actually visualize it scrolling down and down and down. And it doesn't matter how many visualizations I have down here. I will be able to scroll down, 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 and keep going to evaluate that data point and understand what it means and what needs to happen with it. So now that is a new option that is available in 7.7, and it's been very, very interesting as well. Now, in terms of tables and cross tables, the most important features here are the fact that you can control the way that you are displaying these from the appearance perspective. Every time that you do a click here, now you have this menu where you have the size to fit, you can control the column width, you can actually make these horizontal labels versus vertical labels, you can center, not center, so you can control a lot in terms of the appearance of that table. And in addition to that, now for the cross tables, you will have different options on the sorting side of it. So initially in previous versions, when we have a categorical hierarchy like the one that we are showing here in this cross table, you will have a sorting option that is going to consider only the last level of the category. So think about your level number 1 as the country, level number 2 as the division, and then level number 3 as the product line. So all of these product lines belong to the Argentina country, which is your level number 1 on the category, on the hierarchy. So now, in addition to this sorting option, you have the absolute sorting option as well. So you can actually keep in mind the first level of the category of the hierarchy instead of the last level only. So absolute sorting, it's also an addition for the cross tables that is available starting in Spotfire 7.6. That's a very good one as well to highlight. Now let's do a quick reminder here in terms of the options that Spotfire has when you are bringing data into the tool. a lot of out-of-the-box possibilities in terms of advanced analytics, a lot of options from the menu tools where you can actually do data relationships, k-mean clustering. You have basic machine learning algorithms here. You have multivariable model options and things like that. That is extremely important. But sometimes you may need to work your own script, your own function. And for that, we can receive programming languages as part of a data function in Spotfire. So if you're not sure what that means, I recommend you to go to my YouTube channel, for example. So this is me, and if you type something like what is a data function in Spotfire or what is TER in Spotfire, it's gonna give you an overview of the things that you can do within the data functions and within TER. So I would recommend you to take a look at this video, TER in Spotfire, that is going to walk you through some of the options in terms of what a data function is and how you can use it. But for now, what we need to point out is the fact that you can add a data function. This data function can receive a script from different programming languages, including R, and you can connect inputs and outputs from that script into your table columns and your own tables within the analysis. This is extremely powerful because it's going to allow you pretty much to have like a simulation tool within the Spotfire analysis that at the same time has all the data up to date, because you can keep all the data sources connected to the original sources, right? So that's extremely powerful. But that is not a new feature. That's something that we have been able to handle long time ago. So what's new from the TER perspective in Spotfire? The aggregation functions within the custom expressions. So what that means is that we don't only receive a script from a data function interface. Now we can also receive a script in a custom expression without building the whole programming scripting function. So what this means is that if you type in this area there, now you're going to have all these functions that are going to allow you to say, hey, Spotfire, everything that is after the parentheses is going to be a straight R pretty much, and it's going to be a straight code. And I want to still use it on my custom expression because I needed this specific function that is not out of the box within the Spotfire menu. So let's think about a specific example. NPV, net present value. And the way that you will follow this example will be to go to Google and investigate which package will you need to run an NPV function from an R package. And all of that is being explained at this other video that is called NPV in Spotfire with an example. So I recommend you to take a look at this video if this is something that you think that you can use. I will generally explain it here. So what is going on is that within the NPV, within the expression on the y-axis, we now are calling a straightforward R line. And the R line is telling Spotfire that from the package that contains that NPV function, I will run an NPV that is going to receive two inputs, where one of my inputs is this discount rate and my other input is the actual cash flow value. So what this is doing is converting once again Spotfire into a simulation tool, where every time that I do a change on this number, all my numbers are getting recalculated, and I can actually compare the NPV between two projects to define which one is better based on this NPV analysis. But what I am also doing is changing the discount rate and seeing how that actually affects my numbers and how that affects my result based on the simulation that I just created using that TER aggregation in a custom expression. So I totally recommend to take a look of this video and see what else you can find out and what else is new that you didn't know before, that is going to allow you to expand that amount of tools that you can handle within Spotfire. In addition to all of this, we also have some edit transformation capabilities. This is new, starting in Spotfire 7.9. So before, you know that in the data wrangling panel, we are getting like one click away from a lot of very easy tasks in terms of data wrangling, data manipulation. You can even do a one click of the mouse on pivot data. You can change the type of the data that you are working. Instead of real, you need it to be string or something different. You can clean the data right from the data panel, forcing one column to be integer, for example, if it came as a string because somebody made a mistake and put an X in a cell where it's not supposed to be an X. So all of these things are very easy to use using the data panel. Now, in addition to all of that, we always are transforming data. So we are always creating that master table that is going to have more rows, that is going to have more columns. You will always need to join two tables and create something that is bringing data from another data source but is linked to a key, to a category, so you can make it make sense for the analysis that you are doing. So in that matter, we have now the option to edit those transformations, and I'm just going to create something very quick here to show you that now we can actually have a table view that is going to show me my source view. So everything that I do to create one table is going to have this kind of history. It's going to tell me where the data is coming from. It's going to tell me if I did anything to change anything within that table, and it's going to create that master table after all the transformations that I'm doing. So what is new is that now you can get to that final master table, and if you realize that you made a mistake in between where you were doing all the transformations, you can now edit that transformation menu. So how this will work, we're going to add a data table, and that data table is going to come from the analysis. So in this specific case, I'm going to say that this is going to come from the analysis, but this is going to be the transformed, this is going to be the edit transformation example. So I'm going to do an on pivot, and for that to happen, I will need to define which columns I want to unpivot. So I'm going to unpivot all these quarters and all these years, and I'm going to keep my category and my well ID. So now I have all those columns. Instead of multiple columns here, I have just one. Very, very typical example where I need to plot, for example, a year-based trend instead of a year-by-year or quarter-by-quarter trend. So I need to see the overall year trend. So I'm going to click OK. And what's going to happen is that Spotfire is going to generate the table, and it's going to show it to me here, and it's going to say, okay, you have a new table that instead of being this way, now you have a new table that looks this way, because now you have all of these columns unpivoted, and now you have a very long table, but you have all the variables that you need to create a very simple visualization that looks like this. So instead of having this category as axis, I can actually say something like, give me my category here, and now I have the year and the quarter as part of the category, and I have a value. So this type of visualization, very easy to accomplish after you unpivot the data, but before you unpivot the data, it can be a little more challenging. So typical example for unpivoting data. Now, what is new from the Spotfire perspective is that now from the data panel, we can see the source view. And the source view now has the little icon that is telling you that you actually did a transformation. So what is new in Spotfire is the fact that you can now edit these transformations. So if you continue doing more edits and more transformations and you make a mistake somehow, you can come back here and see where was the mistake, and from the mistake you can now edit that table. So if it is something that you need to change and you need to take this out or something, you can also do it and just clean the data, and this is going to be way faster to go and create that master table at the end. Now, in addition to be able to edit the transformations, now we can also replace some values that we know that are not right for a fact. So replace values starting in Spotfire 7.9. If we have an outlier and we totally check that outlier and see, okay, that is not a 400 for sure, that is a 40, we want to replace that value. So I'm going to highlight it, and here in the details visualization I can now have the option of replace a value on the details on demand option. So replace value, that is going to be, okay, this is going to be a 40, and it can happen for all the values that you have in this visualization. So let's say that somebody constantly made an error and you say, okay, all the 400s here are going to be a 40, or you know that it's just one instance that instead of a 400 it's a 40, for example. So remember that this is actually happened at the Spotfire level only. This is not pushing back that fixed into any data source by default. We could manage that if that is your final goal, but by default Spotfire is unidirectional, so it's reading and consuming data from the data sources, but it's not pushing any of this data back to the data source. Now keep in mind that this also gets tracked into the history of that table. So in the history of that table you can see the source information, where is the data table coming from, and at the same time it is keeping the history of what happened, and Spotfire knows that we did a value replacement and what was the original value, what was the corrected value, and every time that you load this file and if that table is linked to the source, this is going to happen again. So whenever you open it into the Spotfire analysis, your 400 is going to be fixed and it's going to be 40. But if you see something else that needs to be fixed, you will have to do it again from the details on demand panel and fix it, and that is going to add one more line into the history of that table, and every time that you reload that table, all of that is going to happen again. So all of this is available starting in Spotfire 7.9. Now between 7.7 and 7.9 there have been a lot of additions to the automation services. Is starting with the fact that now you can actually have the SBDF table into the library after you create it in Spotfire. So what this means, by the way, SBDF is a Spotfire binary data file, which is kind of the by default format that Spotfire uses to export these data tables and to handle these data tables. So what this means for you as an analyst is that after spending all that time creating that master table, so you created the visualizations, you have tables coming from multiple sources, you have your final view of the master table, that is the table that you want. Now that table can be automatically exported to the library. So that is the new function of the automation server. You can actually automatically export that table to the library, and therefore to create an information link for some of your coworkers to use that table that you spent all that time putting together. So finally you have this master table that is combining all of these columns and rows from all of these data sources. You are happy with the results. You already did all the transformations that you needed to do to visualize the data in the way that you needed to visualize the data. Therefore, you are ready to export that table as the master table to the library if you want to, and use the automation services to do this automatically. So let's say that this table is going to get updated every day or every 2 hours or every 5 hours or whatever you need. And this table is going to go back to the library from where your coworkers can pull the table using an information link. So this is one of the new features that we have in the automation service, and it's a very good one. Now you can also send an email with an attachment that is the PDF that we just converted. So remember that Spotfire 7.10 has all of these new capabilities to export into PDF and create very nice looking PDF documents that are gonna keep all the layouts and the themes and the fonts and all the work that you did to create a very nice looking PDF. Now you can export that automatically as well and attach that PDF as a mail for somebody else to receive. And in addition to those PDFs, it can also be the table itself, or it can be the table converted to a CSV or text or Excel format or whatever you need. So some of the new features that we have from the automation services are very, very useful as well from the analyst perspective. Now, many different additions in terms of data connectors and in terms of APIs and in terms of the architecture. I will not cover all of these at once, but I totally recommend you to check the What's New in TIBCO Spotfire for the TIBCO community page that has all the details in terms of the new connectors and new features that we have for different options, including developer. The one that I would like to highlight is the fact that now you have API access to the Spotfire data wrangling operations. This one is a big one if you are a developer, because it's not only the API integration that we have that makes Spotfire a very robust tool to create all of these apps and embed all of these apps into your own domain or into your own website or whatever, but in addition to that, now we can control the data transformation with an API as well. So you can provide even more options to that consumer, to that user from your app, that is going to allow him or her to create joins, inner joins, and any other transformation that needs to happen in the data using this API control, because now you can actually access these rules of the transformation and how you are editing those tables through the API, and that's very nice for the developers as well. In addition to that, the easier debugging for the TER data functions is also a good one. It's gonna give you back a little more information into what's failing within the script for the TER's perspective. And for this to be activated, you just have to go to the options, data function properties, and check on the enable data function debugging capability that is new in Spotfire 7.10. This is going to allow you to have more information about what the error is, and it's going to guide you better into this debugging process when you need to find out what the problem may be. So I also invite you to visit the Exchange community page. When you click TIBCO Spotfire, you are going to find a lot of templates that are already there available at the community, where you can download the template itself. So if you need a contour plot, for example, you can click on the contour plot option, and this is going to take you to where you can actually download the file. So if I go to releases, I can check how many releases I have, and I only have one. When I click this zip file, it's going to contain the DXP file and the data function that allows this to happen within the Spotfire visualization of the map. So things like that, you can actually have many examples and find different options here, but this is allowing you not to start from zero, but only to tweak here and there functions that are already available for the community to move one step forward within that analysis. So to finish with, I just want to show you this picture and let you know that wherever you feel you are today, you have a path in terms of the analytics maturity curve and the growing path. Always remember to tie the data that you are working with to a business case, to a problem, to a KPI. The data can come from multiple sources. You can wrangle, you can transform, you can connect tables, you can do all this work in Spotfire now with the data panel capabilities and the edit transformation and the pushing back the master table to the library. All those options are going to allow you to bring all these data from multiple sources and work on the data transformation and data wrangling until you have a sample set that you feel that is going to give you clean information about your data. Remember that you have many options to explore the data within the out-of-the-box tools. See if you have any correlation, see if the correlation is expected or is not expected. Use any of the initial model exploration that Spotfire offers within this menu. Do the relationships and the option to see if the data is behaving the way that you expected. Don't limit yourself to create only a dashboard to show only a number. Always try to tie that number to something that means more for more people. It's not only one number that is telling you that is my KPI and that's it. Put some context into it. Is that a green value? It's good? Is it positive? Is it better? Is it expected? It is a red value. It has a little icon that goes up. It has a little icon that goes down. Can you add something else that is going to provide more value added to that analysis into the context? It's going to provide more value for the person that is receiving that dashboard and seeing not only a number but also a red number with an arrow that is going down, that is going to generate a red flag because something is going on, or a green number with an arrow that is going up, that is going to generate this relief feeling because it's something that is going good in a positive way. Don't limit yourself only to create that dashboard. Also explore the advanced analytics into it. Learn something new. Learn something about how to represent that value mathematically, how to represent that correlation mathematically. Is there any way that I can actually use this to do some predictive or prescriptive analytics? Is there any way that I can actually use the regression modeling, linear regression or regression trees to create this multivariable model that is going to allow me to do some kind of prediction into the future and things like that? Think about the final goal. Who is going to look at this? How they're going to have access to this dashboard? Should I design this to be a very nice iPad dashboard, or should I design this to be a very nice iPhone dashboard? Or is this going to be displayed in the cafeteria with a big screen where I don't really care about the real estate and the space that I'm using on the visualization pages? Think about all of these when you have an Spotfire tool in front of you where you can actually create all of these dashboards showing a lot of value added into the data, and always connect that to the business problem. So I hope this review has been useful, and I will see you next time. Thank you.